She could taste blood before she could see it. Metal and dust filled her mouth. A rough hand shoved her face into the dirt. Another voice laughed somewhere behind her. "Serve the man or starve in the dark." Sadie Lynn stopped begging weeks ago. Begging only made them smile. 3 years in that cellar had taught her that silence was safer than mercy. Tonight, though, the world above had cracked open. Her husband's boots thundered down the stairs, whiskey in one hand, a belt in the other. "You still think you can run?" he hissed. Sadie didn't answer. Her eyes caught the rusted scissors near the wooden crate. When he reached for her again, she moved. One sound, a gasp, then nothing. He fell without a word, his weight crushing the lantern on the floor. Flame kissed the straw, and the room screamed with fire. Sadie stumbled through the smoke, barefoot, eyes burning. Behind her, the house began to die. Every step was pain, every breath a punishment. But she didn't stop. The desert night met her like a cold slap. Wind howled across the endless sand. She ran until her legs forgot what running meant. Hours blurred. Blood dried on her hands, black under the moonlight. When dawn came, she was no longer sure if she was alive or already a ghost. Her dress clung to her skin, torn and heavy. She followed the sound of a river that wasn't there. Then, through the haze, she saw a shape. A cabin. A man. For a moment she thought it was another hallucination. She dragged herself closer, one step at a time, until her knees gave out beside a flat stone. The man turned at the sound. He was tall, gray at the temples, eyes sharp as winter steel. Elias Boone had spent half his life running from what he used to be. When he saw the woman collapse, his hand moved instinctively toward the rifle by the door. Then he heard her voice. "Don't stop, please." She was shaking, bleeding, terrified. He froze. For a long second, neither of them breathed. Her hair was tangled with blood and dust, her face barely visible beneath the grime. She tried to crawl away, not from him, but from the fear that still owned her. He stepped back slowly. His voice came out low. "Careful. I ain't gonna hurt you, ma'am." Her hands trembled harder. Tears carved clean lines down her dirty cheeks. "I just can't be touched, not even by kindness." Elias felt something twist deep inside his chest. He had seen bodies, seen blood, but not this kind of broken. He knelt a few feet away, still giving her distance. "Let me help you." She shook her head, whispering, "You can't help what's already dead." The desert wind rose, lifting sand across the dying sunlight. Elias watched her struggle to stand. Her breath came short and fast, the kind that meant the body was quitting. She tried again, whispering to herself, "I can make it stop. I just need somewhere quiet, quiet." That word hit him harder than any bullet ever had. He had come to this desert for the same reason. To disappear. To forget. To live in silence, and now silence had found him again. Bleeding at his doorstep, Elias looked toward the horizon. No riders yet, but tracks behind her said someone would come. He had two choices, let her die, or open his door and bring death inside. Her eyes met his, pale green, hopeless, but still alive. He sighed, stepped back, and nodded toward the cabin. "Doors open. Come in when you're ready." She looked at him, then the ground, then back at him. Her lips parted as if to speak, but no sound came. Instead, she crawled forward, slow and shaking, into the shadow of his home. Elias closed the door behind her, the sound echoing like a promise neither of them understood yet. Outside, the wind died, the desert went still, and somewhere far off, a single coyote began to howl. What was he really letting in that night? A dying woman? Or the past he swore he buried? The cabin smelled of smoke and old wood. Elias set a pot of water on the stove, keeping his eyes off the girl. She sat near the door, too weak to move, staring at the floor like it was the only thing she trusted. When he brought her a blanket, she flinched. He stopped a few steps away, laid it down, and said softly, "For the cold. You don't have to take it." Her hands trembled before she reached for it. "Thank you." 2 words, small but real. He nodded, went back to his chair by the window. Outside, the desert stretched like an ocean of dust, quiet and endless. Elias poured 2 cups of water, slid one across the table. She didn't drink. She just stared at the steam like it reminded her of something far away. After a long silence, her voice came out rough, broken. "Do you believe in hell?" He looked up. "I've been there a few times." That made her smile, just a little. Then she said, "I didn't mean the kind in the Bible. I meant the kind a man builds for you. One lock at a time." Elias said nothing. She pulled the blanket tighter around her shoulders. "I killed him. My husband. It wasn't supposed to happen. But it did." Her eyes glistened in the firelight. "He kept me in the cellar 3 years. Said he was teaching me obedience every night. He made me forget who I was." She paused, shaking. "I stopped begging after the first year. Begging made him laugh. I prayed instead. But God stopped answering too." Elias looked at the fire. He didn't tell her it was fine. He didn't say she was forgiven. He just let her talk. When he got drunk that last night, he told me I wasn't even worth hitting anymore. I remember seeing that old pair of scissors. I don't remember much after that, only fire. And the sound of nothing. She took a slow breath, like the story itself was poison leaving her body. Guess I'm not welcome anywhere now. Elias stood, walked to the shelf, grabbed a tin of whiskey, poured a small measure into her cup. "Drink. It'll help the shaking." She hesitated, then did. The burn in her throat made her cough, but she didn't stop. Elias spoke finally. "You did what you had to do. That don't make you evil." She looked at him like she wanted to believe that, like she hadn't heard those words in a lifetime. Outside, the wind hit the walls again, soft but steady. Sadie's eyes started to close. She fought it, whispering, "If they find me, they'll kill me." Elias met her gaze, calm but sharp. "Then we best make sure they don't." Her lips parted, fear flickering again. "You mean they're already close?" He didn't answer. He just looked out the window, jaw tight, eyes narrowing into the dark. Because out there, something moved. The night got colder, heavier. Elias hadn't moved from the window. The lamp burned low, painting lines across his face, deep and worn. He could see it now. Dust rising on the horizon. 3 riders, moving slow, steady. Not the kind that passed by, the kind that came looking. He turned to Sadie. She was half asleep, the blanket pulled up to her chin, her face calm for the first time since she came. He thought about waking her, then didn't. Instead, he checked his rifle. The sound of the metal sliding back was soft but final, the kind of sound that said, "A line just got drawn." Minutes later, hooves hit the dirt outside the cabin. A rough voice called out, "Boone, we know she's in there. You hand her over, and we'll be on our way." Elias opened the door slow, one hand resting easy on his belt. The men outside looked like every kind of trouble he used to run with. 3 horses, 3 guns, 3 dead eyes. He spoke calm. "You boys rode a long way for a lie." The one in front grinned. "Word is, the girl killed her husband. We're just doing the law's work." Elias tilted his head. "I've seen the law's work. Didn't look much like justice to me." The man's grin faded. "You hiding her, Boone?" Elias shrugged. Maybe I'm just tired of men who think they own other folks." The man spat. "Then you're standing in our way." Elias's voice dropped, low as thunder before the storm. "I've been in the way my whole life." No one saw who drew first. 3 shots cracked through the silence. When the smoke cleared, only the wind was left moving. Elias stood there, still as stone, his eyes hard, his chest rising slow. He turned back toward the cabin. Sadie stood in the doorway, eyes wide, hands shaking. "You killed them." He nodded. "Yeah, guess old habits die harder than I thought." Tears filled her eyes, but not from fear. She walked closer, stopped a few feet away. "They would have taken me back." Elias looked at the horizon again. "No one's taking you anywhere now." The words hung heavy, but gentle. She swallowed hard. "Why are you helping me?" He met her gaze. "Because someone should have, a long time ago." Silence filled the cabin again, but this time it wasn't empty. It felt like breathing after years underwater. Outside, the sky was turning silver. Morning was coming, and for the first time in years, Elias Boone didn't feel like running. He poured 2 cups of coffee, set one in front of her, and smiled just a little. Drink up. You're going to need it. The hard part's not over yet. If you've been here this long, thank you for staying with the story. Go ahead. Pour yourself a cup of tea or coffee and tell me, what time is it where you are and where are you listening from? And if you'd like to hear what happens next on this quiet ranch, hit that subscribe button. Partner, you won't want to miss what's coming. The sun crawled up slow that morning. Elias stood in the doorway, looking at the 3 fresh mounds of dirt behind his cabin. He had buried men before, but not like this, not with a prayer in his chest, not with someone watching from the window. Sadie sat inside, wrapped in his old coat, hands around a steaming cup of coffee. She looked smaller in the light, but her eyes were different now. Not wild anymore, just tired. When he walked in, she said quietly, "You didn't have to do it." Elias set his hat on the table, dust rising from it. "Maybe not, but I wanted to." She looked at him, like she couldn't believe anyone would say that for her. "You don't even know me." He gave a small smile. "Don't need to. I know what it's like to be hunted by your own ghosts." Her lips trembled. "You ever stop running?" He poured more coffee into her cup. "Not until today." They sat in silence for a while, the kind of silence that felt like peace, not fear. Elias took something from his pocket. A small cross, carved from old cedar. He hung it back on the wall, right above the rifle rack. Then he placed his Colt Peacemaker beneath it, hand steady. Sadie watched him. "That gun saved me?" He nodded. "Maybe. But some things ain't meant to be held forever." She looked down at her hands. "I don't have much to give back." He tilted his head. "Then give what's left." That evening, when the sun dipped red across the desert, Sadie walked out to the edge of the porch. She held something in her hand. A small bundle of dried lavender she had found in his cupboard. She tied it with a thin string and hung it by his bed. "For what?" Elias asked, half smiling. "For forgiveness," she whispered. "For both of us." He didn't answer. He didn't have to. The smell of lavender filled the small cabin, soft and clean, like a new start pretending to be ordinary. Outside, coyotes called somewhere far away. Inside, neither of them moved, and for the first time, silence felt like a choice. But, as the night fell, Elias looked at the horizon again. And what he saw there would change everything. Morning came slow and gentle. The smell of coffee filled the cabin. Elias sat by the window, watching the light crawl across the floorboards. Sadie hummed a quiet tune as she baked bread in the small stove. For the first time in years, the cabin sounded off. It wasn't laughter, not yet, but it was something close. He looked at the rifle hanging under the wooden cross, right where he left it, and beside it, the lavender she had hung days ago, still giving off that soft, clean scent of peace. They never spoke about the fire, but sometimes, when the wind blew from the south, he could still smell smoke, or the cellar, or the men buried behind the hill. They didn't need to. Every sunrise they chose to wake up here, together, was a kind of forgiveness. Sometimes Sadie would sit outside, watching the desert turn gold. Elias would bring her coffee, stand beside her, and say nothing. Silence had become their language, and kindness their way of speaking. Years later, folks in nearby towns would whisper stories about a quiet ranch where a woman with gentle eyes lived with an old cowboy who never carried a gun anymore. They said no one really knew what brought them together, but anyone who ever stopped there left with a full stomach, a warmer heart, and a strange sense that maybe second chances were real after all. Elias once told her, "We don't get to choose what breaks us, but we sure as hell get to choose what we build after." She smiled at him that day, eyes bright, voice steady. "And what did we build, Elias?" He looked out toward the horizon. "Something worth staying for." The wind moved through the grass, slow and quiet. And just like that, the desert finally rested. So now, as you sit there listening, maybe with a warm drink in your hand, let me ask you, if life gave you one more chance to start again, would you take it? And if you did, who would you build it with? If this story touched you even a little, give it a like and share it with someone who needs to hear it tonight. And if you haven't already, go ahead and hit subscribe. There are more stories waiting for you here at the Quiet Ranch. Now, tell me in the comments, what time is it where you are and where are you listening from?